Today's chapter is called The Ghost and the Hedgehog. Under the big plum tree, Grandad sat in his wheelbarrow. I was going to leap and yell, but the last of the sun shone through his hair, and I saw how thin it was. Grandad, I wanted to say, we'd better go inside. It's going to get cold soon, and you know about your chest. That was something that Granny always used to say. I opened my mouth, but someone else was talking, high, fast, and squeaky. Grandad and Granny have both described that voice hundreds of times. It squeaked a question, Grandad replied, and I backed away silently until I came up again against the bean row. Some pods hung among the brown leaves, left so that the seeds would fall and there'd be young plants next year. The leaves rustled dry. Not a red flower, not a single black and yellow bumblebee. All summer they'd fumbled the flowers, too busy to take any notice of me. Grandad waved his hand as if saying goodbye to someone. I tried to whistle, but my mouth wouldn't go the right way. Instead, I ran down, kicked the red and yellow leaves under the cherry tree until they rattled and crackled. "Oh, so there you are," Grandad said, standing up. As the barrow banged down on its wheels, he wobbled a bit and put his hand on my shoulder. "You were talking to someone." I was, but I couldn't see anyone. "He was here, though." "Who?" "Well, that'd be telling." "Go on." "Here, put this in the barrow." "It's huge." "Do you want to ride?" "Were we too heavy for you, Grandad, me and the cabbage?" "Perhaps you would." "Could I push the barrow for you?" "Of course you can. Sometimes when I'm sleeping in the sun, I dream someone's pushing me in my old wheelbarrow." "Granny?" "She'd tip me out." "What about Mr. Humdrum? Would he give you a ride?" "Funny you should ask that. I was just talking to him." "I couldn't see anyone." "As large as life, talking as fast in that high squeak of his." "I heard him, just like you said, high, fast and squeaky, and you said something back, so I crept away because I thought I was doing something wrong." "If you crept and listened on purpose, that'd be wrong." "But how could I hear Mr. Humdrum if he wasn't there?" "Maybe I was talking to a ghost." "A ghost?" "Jack, this is where we dug our underground hut and made home brew. The plum tree was about your height then. Your granny made me fill in the dugout years ago, but old Humdrum's ghost haunts that place." "I don't like ghosts, Grandad." "Well, this one's just hanging around for a sniff of the home brew that we made 50 years ago. There's no harm in that." "Have you told Granny about Mr. Humdrum's ghost?" Grandad shook his head. "She'd probably say I'd been drinking homebrew again." "Does Granny ever drink?" "She was a terror for the stuff. We used to hear Granny and Mrs. Humdrum laughing and dancing up around the house, and old Humdrum would say, 'They've been at our home brew again.' And we'd go up to the house and they'd be sitting at the table with a cup of tea, talking like ladies with their hats on, as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouth. But we kept account of those bottles. Someone was pinching them." "Granny? Who else would it be?" "What about your hedgehog?" I never thought of the hedgehog. Of course that's who it was. All this time I've been blaming Granny." "Does your hedgehog sing, Grandad?" "Like a blackbird. I've even seen him get up on his hind legs and dance. He calls himself Jack." "That's my name." "Ha, so it is." "It's your name too." "Fancy that. There's 3 of us." "Grandad, hadn't we better go inside? The sun's gone down, it's getting cold, and you know about your chest." "Hop in the barrow. I can manage you and the cabbage. We'll tell Granny it was the hedgehog who pinched our home brew." "Does she know you thought it was her and Mrs. Humdrum?" Grandad tipped the barrow, so I rolled out, holding the big cabbage. "Your grandmother would be furious." "I won't tell her." "You better not. Next time I see the ghost of old Humdrum, I'll tell him it was the hedgehog who pinched our home brew. He'll have a laugh at that." "Do ghosts laugh, Grandad?" "His does. Let's get inside and light the fire for Granny. She notices the cold more and more. I'd tell her she wasn't getting any younger, but she'd be so angry she wouldn't cook me any tea." "That's all right, Grandad. You could have some of mine."